Hey Facebook, happy Thursday. I am just arriving back in my office. I've been out all day long, but I wanted to get this out before the holiday weekend, and I'm going to probably skip over some of the detail this week in favor of next week because I have some staff here who helped me get the video uploaded and things like that, who would very much like to get home for a holiday weekend. Tomorrow is a holiday in the Legislative Office Building, so I will get this in under the wire so that I can benefit from their extremely helpful skills and talents. I wanted to, so on the detailed end, we've had a couple of, one final judiciary meeting last Friday, at which we had held our last votes, and we were briefly in session as a full legislature on Wednesday. And that even included some unanimous votes, which was unique enough that we all sort of visibly enjoyed ourselves as we were all united in passing some straightforward bills. I will provide more details on those next week, so that I don't have to hold up people around here who are who help me make sure that these videos and this information gets out to everybody. So I look forward to sharing that with you then, while I'll have some more information to share. But I wanted to highlight a couple things. I wanted to highlight some events that I went to this week. And I also wanted to just touch base on, to get back to you on a question that somebody asked me this week. Last week, when I did this video, I highlighted some votes, and I noted which votes were bipartisan and the fact that some of them were not bipartisan. They were straight line, pretty much straight party line votes. And as I was saying that, that feels partisan to say that. And somebody reached out to me, a couple people actually, and said, that made me uncomfortable. That felt really partisan, and I would prefer you not to do that. And I was really glad they did that, because I also felt partisan saying that, but I made the choice to do that because I think it's more transparent for me to share which issues have when you work on them. And I think that is always an important thing. When you work on them, some issues are amenable to finding common ground and finding bipartisan support and getting really strong votes that sometimes even unanimous votes, but at least strong bipartisan support on issues. But some things end up being partisan, and I guess my reflection on that was that partisanship, when it means demonizing and diminishing somebody who disagrees with you, is not productive, and I think we should try to minimize it as much as possible. But sometimes partisanship just means a set of priorities, and it is true that the Democratic and Republican parties have different priorities, and that doesn't mean necessarily that one is always right and one is always wrong, but we prioritize things differently, and I think it's helpful to share which issues those are that require end up being partisan votes. And that doesn't always mean, and I hope I covered this last week, that in judiciary in particular, many of the issues we face, there is no right or wrong answer. It's a question of weighing the pros and cons, taking a look at the data as much as possible, and trying to help the most amount of people and hurt the least amount of people. And that's not always straightforward, and it also matters which people you're prioritizing over other people. So I appreciate the reflection that sometimes that might sound partisan, but I do think it's an important piece of information to share with you so that you have an idea. Your vote makes a difference, and when you choose, I've had a lot of people say you vote for person, not party, and I think that's great, but there are also some people who vote for party because they feel that one party versus the other reflects their principles, and I think illustrating that in terms of what that actually means in practice and the bills that we are voting on, particularly as we now, the legislature is now gearing up to start voting on things, is an important piece of information to share. So I will continue to share that, but I don't. I'm not trying to sound partisan in the bad way. So other events that I just wanted to share with you. One was a breakfast with the UPFFA, which is the professional firefighters. They had a great breakfast for many of us. A lot of legislators showed up to show their support for the causes, particularly one of the issues that they're focused on is post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I know that in judiciary we also had a bill that would help one more step in encouraging, making it possible for firefighters to seek help when they are dealing with the, in effect, post-traumatic stress disorder or the aftermath of dealing with really tragic, horrifying events. And they need people to talk to, and we need to make sure that the social stigma associated with that is minimized, and that these conversations can be confidential and can be encouraged as much as possible, so that they can get help, so that they can continue to do the very difficult jobs that they do for all of us. So that was a valuable thing. We also had Autism Day, which a lot of people from the district, particularly Torrington, came, families. And there are a lot of people in the Capitol. Again, this is another bipartisan issue. People fighting for kids with autism, and one of the issues is the cliff. There are many cliffs, but this one has. We have programs that help kids with autism, and then what happens when those minor children become adult children, and do we provide services to help families as the people with autism get older and need different kinds of services, but still need help. I also had, interestingly, I've noted before that there are a couple of interesting bills with respect to the public option, which in effect is a potential way for small businesses to buy into the health programs that are available to state employees. There are two bills that mirror one another, House Bill 7267 and Senate Bill 134. And I had a number of meetings on those bills on both sides of the issue, one with some insurance companies and with some faith-based group who believe strongly in universal health care, and with other advocates for small businesses who are looking to curb those costs, which have really skyrocketed for them, particularly with the kind of sabotage of the ACA that's going on at the federal level. So those are really interesting. Healthcare is very complicated, and it requires a lot of perspectives to try to make sure that we deal with this holistically and that we really can manage costs better, but by creating a program that we can run or that is runnable with people with expertise. So I really valued hearing from a lot of different perspectives, and I think it's a way to craft better policy, even given the complexity here. I also attended an event with the Connecticut League of History Organizations, with which I was not familiar before. But I went because two groups within the district were being honored that evening for projects, educational projects and exhibits that they were they did. The first was Company F, 14th Connecticut Volunteer Infantry. They preserved a flagpole on in Gettysburg. They were in honor of the 155th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. They raised funds to restore and preserve the 17th Connecticut flagpole on that field. And if you Google the Battle of Gettysburg, you can find an interactive map that shows where the 17th Connecticut played a role, and the preservation of what I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I heard that this is the only flagpole right now on the field in Gettysburg. So they are rightly proud of what they have done there and the work that is ongoing to make sure that the flag is taken care of on that flagpole. So it was really fun to spend a little time with them. Also, the Norfolk Historical Society was honored for an exhibit called Norfolk and the Great War, which showed the impact on the town and how dramatically life changed for not only those who went to war, but those who stayed home during World War I. And it featured, among other things, a pretty extensive collection of World War I posters, which really helped demonstrate the thoughts about the war and how very people at home and people at war dealt with it. So it was nice to see them as well. And this morning, I spent most of the morning at a Torrington Downtown Preservation and Development Conference, which highlighted a lot of efforts that have been going on for a number of years, but are poised for development in Torrington. And it was pretty exciting because it covered very thoroughly, first of all, Torrington's pretty unique downtown architecture, which the extent of the preservation of the buildings in downtown Torrington is pretty unusual. They still have a lot of historic buildings that are quite beautiful. Some of them need love and significant renovation, and they need tenants. So there's a lot of work to be done, but there's also a lot of potential, and there's certainly a lot of skills and devoted people in the room who really want to see that happen. So this meeting, which went on all morning, covered development opportunities and initiatives, the role of arts and culture as an economic driver in Torrington, and that cannot be understated. Arts play a pretty significant role in development of a lot of towns as they are sort of getting back on their heel, getting their economic life back together. Artists can be a really early part of that effort. And certainly Five Points Gallery is doing amazing things downtown, as is the Warner Theater, as is the Kids Play Museum, as is the Nutmeg Ballet Company. There are a lot of really impressive organizations in the arts that are doing amazing work and who are really dedicated to downtown Torrington. We also covered the role of opportunity zones, the National Historic District designation and how that can help with redevelopment. And then we took a bus tour of some of the historic industrial buildings in Torrington, some of which have been purchased and redeveloped already. Others have been more recently purchased and are awaiting redevelopment. And then others which are poised, being positioned for various opportunities that to draw private and possibly public funding to renovate. So it was an exciting tour of Torrington to see, to take a deep look at some of the really interesting architecture that's there that I think can really make some interesting projects. So this weekend, there's an Earth Day event in Kent on Saturday. I will be going, Aidan Chernisky's Eagle Scout project, which is putting together a trail in Kent, which I'm excited to attend. And Sharon Fire Department dinner and awards are on Saturday night. I'm looking forward to that too. And lots of other things this weekend, I think. I'm hoping it's a nice spring weekend. I'm hoping you get to spend some time with your families. And if you celebrate Easter, I hope you're looking forward to a happy Easter. I'm hoping to see at least 2 of my kids, but not all 3 of them, as my third is busily working on her thesis, so she will not make it home. So I wish you all a happy holiday weekend, and I will see you next week. Thanks.